Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Evolution Podcast with Mac and Jen. And today we're going to be talking about stuff. We'll see. We'll see where it leads, but a big discussion around polarity, but more so the lack of polarity and the things that we're doing that are causing polarity to be squashed out or just put out. And there's a lot of this that actually. Well, I'm going to rephrase the question. Here's the question that you should think about as you're having this conversation. What would have to happen in my relationship in order for me to be inspired to do more, like to be the best version of me inside my relationship? What would it look like for example, my wife to show up that would give me more fuel in my masculine that I want to do more? And it's not because she's not doing it, it's because I can lead her to that place and figuring out what I need to do and vice versa, et cetera, et cetera. Because when we're truly fulfilled, like to our natural instincts, to our spiritual design, to what we desire, all those different things, when they actually play out well, we're automatically and very easily and very smoothly doing the things that one, give us more fulfillment, and two, fires up the other person in the relationship. So that's kind of the topic for today, correct?
I think that's a great topic. Yeah, so talking about polarity though,
Mhm.
I feel like the first thing maybe we should talk about is like what is even polarity a
Okay.
little bit, just because I feel like a lot of people don't even know what that term is or understand how it might relate to relationships.
Yeah, I still don't understand.
You don't understand?
I do, but I don't. It's like polarity. Well, what does that mean? Because it's so, it's like it's a word when we're actually talking about the whole design of human nature, psychology, personal characteristics. So it's a very big discussion inside the word polarity.
Yeah, well, if you think about polarity, like it's basically two opposite energies that are drawn to each other.
Mhm.
So kind of like the North Pole and the South Pole, how they have like a pole,
Mhm.
right? I don't know how
Mhm.
that what is that like? Like there's like the equator, the North Pole and the South Pole, and they like pull to each other.
Yeah, it's still even that explanation to me though, like I'm always overthinking it, like yeah, but what's it mean? Like I understand that one pulls and one pushes and one does
Like
different
yin and
things.
yang,
Yeah.
right? So polarity is two opposite energies that are drawn to each other. So in relationship, the two opposite energies would be masculine energy and feminine energy.
Mhm.
And the two energies create a polarity, like a pole that makes them kind of magnetic to each other, which creates passion inside of intimate relationships. So when there's polarity, that pole, that two masculine and feminine energy, it
Mhm.
creates passion. Okay.
Yeah, and I've heard it one of the things said as like a male, a natural masculine part of the guy is a giver, right? A provider, a giver.
Mm-hmm.
And a feminine energy is a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the giver and the receiver. And so the more the feminine is in the receiving role, the more the easier it will be, the more things will flow. And the more the male is in the masculine giver role, the better. And then she receives, he gives, he's fulfilled giving at if she's receiving. And if she's receiving, vice versa, and everything works better and better, which is very confusing in our day and age because it's been really jacked up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So like Tony Robbins says,
Hmm.
like I just quoted right before we got on here, I said, Tony Robbins says, intimate relationships don't die because of lack of love. They die because of lack of polarity, right? And so, in order to have a thriving, intimate relationship, there has to be polarity has to be there for there to be that passion or that draw to devote to each other, if that makes sense. So when polarity dies, or if there is no polarity, let's just say there was no polarity. If there was no polarity between us, just like if Mac was hanging out with one of his guy friends. So if Mac was, Mac is a masculine man, and if he's hanging out with one of his guy friends who's also a masculine man, there's not going to be that pull, that magnetic attraction that brings them together, which is why they're just friends.
That's kind of a messed up
Well,
analogy.
that's how it is. So you guys are just friends, or you guys would be really great roommates.
Well, it's the same way with like just for the purpose of because that's just we're straight, so that's how that works. But
Well, I know,
but
but
the I'll give an example. When dating before we met, right? There's plenty of women out there that it was more like they were trying to pitch themselves like I was on a car lot and they're pitching me the deal of how great this car is, and they're pitching themselves to me about what they can do, everything they blah blah blah, blah all this stuff, right? Because the reality was there's there's not a lot of men presenting themselves well on dating platforms. We'll put it that way. I was very good at presenting myself. I'm very good. Well, I'm 6'6", so I've got that going for me. I look pretty good. Like I have a lot going for me when you're in the 40 plus range of the dating world. And so these women would like sell themselves, and I'd hear it or see it, and it's just like I'm just like cool. Like you'd probably be a fun time, but I'm just not, there's not that pull because they're way too much in their masculine. They've got the house, they've got the job, they've got this, they've got about it, everything's figured out. And I'm like, you don't need a man, you need a vibrator. Like I don't, I'm just saying it's like you realize you haven't left any room for a man to show up, like a real man that wants to show up. And so she's in her masculine, I'm in my masculine. There's no passion there. And when I say passion, don't confuse passion with lust, right? There could easily be lust, but there won't be that real connective passion, deep love connection that's very fulfilling, right? And even with as much as we know, there's still like I can still see there's more to what we're learning and getting better at and getting more into our natural states instead of kind of battling with the stories of the world. Like I have to do this. And it's like, wait a minute, but is that fulfilling to me? Does that really bring out this inner part of me that is natural to me that will inspire me to be the absolute best that will go crush all the dreams that I've ever wanted? And so when I'm having this conversation with myself internally, right? Like it's like, how do I lead my wife to be more feminine so that as she becomes more feminine and I take away any masculine responsibilities that she doesn't honestly doesn't want to have, but she'll just do them because they need done or something like that. And it's like it's not bad, but is it costing me my masculine drive? So I even consider if she's making me food, if she has to make a decision, it brings up a question: is he going to be happy with what I'm going to make? Da 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 da. Like she has to think all this through, and it's stressful. And so then I'm going, well, it's easy for me, like to just let her decide because then I can just work all day and I come home, I eat some food. I don't care what you make, whatever. But on the other hand, she's trying to caretake me, and that's a feminine thing to do. And so she wants to do her best and everything else, and then she's got to think about it and wonder and it's all over the place versus me saying, this is exactly what I want, can you do this for me? And she gets to say yes, no stress, right? Outside of thinking I should do something because the world told me I should do whatever, which are true thoughts, like sometimes you think about it because I'll be like, just cook me a pound of burger, salt, pepper, and butter. That's all I need. And you're like, well, don't you want something added in there? Because like it just seems plain. So then I'm like, no, I don't. Like it just That's it.
Like it's not pretty. Like, don't you want some green in there
Yeah,
or
and
something?
but it's like, does it need to be? It's so there's
Not
it's
really.
and and it's fine to have that thought or question or to flare it up or whatever. But for me to just simply say, this is what I want, and if you want to do something else, that's cool with me, but this is what I want. No more conversation. The decision is made. You can have fun with it from there or just simply do it, and I will be completely happy with it and pleasant. So um it's something as simple as that, that if I don't kind of give her that this is the decision that I want, so she can have freedom to be more in her feminine and fun and whatever. If I don't do that, I could actually be robbing myself of my own masculine drive. Because if she has to make decisions, it means she's getting out of the feminine into the masculine. The energy changes. So then when I meet masculine energy, my energy goes a different direction. When I meet feminine energy, I'm sucked in, right? Like I'm just naturally, it's this weird thing where it's like she leans into me, I lean into her, as long as it's feminine. But if she lays into me with the masculine, I'm like, peace out. Like I want nothing to do with this. I don't want to do anything that you like. Why would why would I play this game? Then it becomes a business deal, not a
Or two
connection.
masculine energies battling.
Yeah, it's a business deal.
Hmm.
Like two men together having a conversation about anything, even if it's on a bar stool about what they did in high school, it's a business deal, right? It's masculine against masculine, which means the one's going to try and dominate. And sometimes they'll dominate in their own way, but they're still trying to find dominance in life, because it's natural to drive towards like the alpha like type mentality. And so when I'm looking at this, or asking this question, it's the question of, it's a tough question because one, it feels like more responsibility for me to start taking away all the masculine roles that like you might have or whatever, so that I can take them off her plate and start making sure that I'm managing anything that could be masculine. So to me, it appears like it's going to be more work, and I already work a lot. Like I don't really slow down. I'm just going, going, going. So it feels like it's going to be more work, and I'm having to look at that and say, feels like more work, but what if the work I'm doing was so inspired that it didn't even feel like work?
Hmm.
And now I have this question in my head that's like, shit, now I won't know unless I do it. So I'm kind of fucked on that plane. And and it's not something I can pull off overnight, but it's something that I can just continually remind myself and work on and do and see what she needs, lead and guide, and try to get like as close to 100% of her and her and her feminine, so that my masculine is at full capacity, full inspiration, full everything. And that will give me the ability to actually go dominate in the industries or performing in different ways, whatever. That's the question that I have, that says, how can I get myself fully inspired, which is like a fucking superpower. That's the reality of it. Um, and I've experienced brief moments of this, a lot since we've been together, a lot more than I even knew was there, just because you do show up very feminine, and so I'm very blessed to like, almost, it was almost like a, you're it for me, it was like standing in the desert and getting smashed by a wave, of feminine energy that was just like, whoa, like I'm no longer parched or dehydrated or, like dried up. It's like water. Here it comes. And so it's been pretty amazing. So yeah, that's just that's kind of where I'm at with the question. And also, the reason I say that is for the idea of personal responsibility from the man's perspective, that says, if I want to be my best, this is one of the ways to do it. To run our life. When I say my life, it means us because we are one in such a way that I am receiving feminine energy from her, which requires that I take control of all masculine things, or as much as should be. Now that will come in context of we all have characters, like we all have trauma, we all have subconscious programming that we will consistently battle. It just kind of is what it is.
Hmm.
I even for you, some of it is like the need, the feeling like you need to contribute.
Or like I need to do like be doing more.
Yeah, right. And why?
Why do I feel like that?
Yeah.
I think it is because of that the programming that you're talking about, where it's like, if you're because like I see you doing all this stuff, and I feel like I should be doing it like as a like a doing more to kind of be at the equal or like payback or
Mhm.
um I feel like you want it. Like
Want
want me like if you're doing all this, you want me to be doing all this.
the like working or something.
Yeah, like working or like we've been talking a lot about like like the giving and the receiving part. It's like because I feel like you give so much,
Mhm.
and so part of me feels like I should be giving to you back the same way because it's like yes I love it, I want it, like of course like it lights me up, and so my brain thinks that like it would light you up too for me to give to you in the same way. So like, I want to, but at the same time,
It it doesn't work.
it works as long as it's come. I feel like it works as long as it's not coming from a place of like I'm doing this for an outcome.
Yeah. So the but well, just to ask the question, where does that need, where do you think it comes from? Like that need to match or give? Because like a feminine is a receiving
It
energy.
comes from fear.
Okay. And where does the fear come from?
Probably from like programming being a child from a child.
Mhm.
Like when I was a child, like if I don't match or if I don't do, then I'm gonna lose your love. I'm gonna lose you. I'm gonna be abandoned.
Conditional love type
Conditional
stuff.
love type
Yeah.
stuff. Yes. It's like it is really hard for a woman, especially in this like day and age, to sit back and receive fully.
Yeah. Because I mean, your mom works,
Yes.
right? And so like just that as a simple example, your mom has always worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you grew up with a mom that worked, that did certain stuff and everything else. So just that alone is a heavy load of programming that says, well, I need to do my part.
I need to do my part. But it's like this is like society says that this is what your part looks like,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. And and that's a full range of different, what society tell you or what do you see or what your church tell you or da 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 da. And instead of kind of stepping back and saying, what do I feel? We're
Hmm.
so disconnected from our true guidance system because of what the world has told us that most of us don't even know. We think we know, or we get in moments. But the more I look at this, the more I'm like, no, like the feminine is a receiving energy, the masculine is a giving energy. So what if that polarity flips, what happens? It kills the masculine, right? So if you start providing and giving to me, what happens? My masculine,
Yeah, it puts me in my masculine energy, which then you will start to lose that
yeah,
attraction,
that polarity is
and
gone.
you'll start pulling away and being drawn to other things.
Yeah, just whatever, or and in the past I've even done the whole she works, I work, I stay out of her way. She does what she wants to, not you, but my
Hmm.
previous relationships,
So
thinking it was the right thing to do.
yeah, so like the reason this is such a like so important to me is because in my first marriage, I became more masculine inside of the marriage. And that ultimately, some other things, but that ultimately was the destroyer of everything. And I think it kind of destroyed me just like internally because I was being somebody that I wasn't truly happy with. I wasn't being myself. We say think in after a long time in relationships, we start to quote unquote lose ourselves. Losing ourselves means we're being too masculine all the time and not taking time to connect back to who we truly are, which is our feminine, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what it means to lose yourself. And so most women end up divorcing and then going and finding themselves again, where a lot of it is they divorce and then they after the divorce then they start doing the self-care and the back to connecting with their body and their feelings and taking better care of themselves and reconnecting with the feminine part of themselves, which is why then they start to feel better. But it's like, no, we can start doing that without the divorce, and becoming, getting the polarity back by stepping back into our feminine energy, like inside of the marriage. So when in my first marriage, once we did get divorced, because there were some other reasons there, it wasn't just our polarity died, but our polarity did die. There was no passion. Like, I mean, we stopped having sex like way before the relationship was actually over, right? Like we were roommates, which
Mhm.
is what happens when there is no polarity anymore. One of the reasons was because I was too much of my masculine, which kind of pushed him into his feminine. I lost respect. I was also burnt out, tired, frustrated, and felt alone. That's what happens when the polarity is there. And the man in your life, when he gets pushed into his feminine, he withdraws. And then he thinks, like you were just saying, I'll just stay out of her way, right? I'll just stay out of her way. That's what they say. And that's what my ex-husband did was I'll just stay out of her way. Because that will make her happy. But in turn, that doesn't actually make us happy. It actually makes us feel very alone and puts us even more into our masculine, right?
Yep.
And so we both could have,
And it, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we both could have, reversed gotten back into polarity had we have known what we know now. If he could have, you know, basically said no and stepped up and started taking control, and I could have let go and released some of that control. But the reason that I am so like into all of this is because after that marriage ended, I was like, how do I not make the same mistake again? But how do I create something that like most people don't have, that people are like a relationship that people want, they're jealous of. And because I seen other examples of people who had the type of relationships that I wanted, and it was like, what are they doing? Well, one thing that they're doing is they're staying in they're being their true selves, so the polarity is staying like intact. And so before after my marriage I started doing what most of us women do and like getting back into our feminine and like stepping into our power and right, but like I actually hired a coach who helped me like learn to love who I was, so I didn't need to wear the masculine mask to try to make things happen. I could just be and allow things to happen and trust that it was all perfect.
Mhm.
And so even that's when I was dating, it like I was different because I wasn't trying to control anything. I wasn't showing up in a certain way to try, there was nothing. It was just like me being me and trusting that I wouldn't miss what was meant for me. And so as the more I went on the journey, the more I healed, the more feminine I'm becoming, which attracted Mac because Mac is very much he's in his masculine. He is a very masculine man. And if you're a woman and you're dating, if you're not if you aren't attracting the type of men that you want, it's because you're too much in your masculine energy, and so the masculine men that you want are not attracted to you. They're looking for a woman who's more like in touch with their feminine, that they're inspired to devote to, right? Um, and so that's why that's important. But then the next thing is like, okay, once we meet, we're like ready for each other. You know, Mac's very masculine. Here I am over here, my little feminine self, having fun. And like he felt attracted to me because I inspired something in him. And of course, like I'm very attracted to him because like he is somebody that I know that I can like respect, but also the question is like, can this man lead me in a healthy way? Yes, yes, you can. And so like of course I'm very attracted to him and his masculine energy, which I call like king energy, his king warrior energy, like I can't get enough of, right? And so there's of course the polarity there. So the next question is like, okay, how do we keep this? Because most people when they get into a relationship there is some polarity, which is what attracted you to each
Mhm.
other, right? But then it's like, how do we keep it going so the honeymoon quote unquote stage doesn't die, so
Mhm.
the relationship doesn't die, so we don't just become like most other old married couples who are just roommates existing in each other's space. That's not the goal here. That's not the vibe. The goal is like,
Yeah.
a relationship where the honeymoon stage
The
doesn't
passion
and the
never
passion
ends.
never ends. We stays alive. And not just where it's like, but I personally want everyone to see it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want you to know like how obsessed with my husband I am. And I want you to like see the way that he looks at me, and I want you to want that for yourself.
Yeah. Because why not?
Right. I mean, because if you're not happy in your intimate relationship, like you're not happy, period. It doesn't matter how great you're killing it and crushing it in business or work or whatever. Like if you're not happy in your relationship, you're not happy.
Yeah. So like, even though I had two previous relationships that were 8+ years. And both those relationships, I still maintained a masculine framework, but they did like these women were not capable of truly being feminine. Like I could see it in them, but I couldn't get it out of them. Now at this point, I know how to do it. But back then I thought, well, I'll just help them. They want to, the first one became a doctor. Like I went through medical school and all that stuff for a veterinarian. And then I had supported her through it, got her through it, paid for a bunch of stuff, whatever. Then she started making money and we kind of split things so that I could get what I needed going. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to help you build yours again. And then that'll help me get away from mine, like level up, go back and forth. So I'm making business deals in my relationship, thinking that this is what she wanted, right? Thinking that this would be a good thing. And so I built her up, got her in her own business. And what that did was that gave her the security that she needed to not need me. And then I was out like, like that. Right. And so, but in that, what I didn't understand was that there's like me not taking control of things in certain ways. Now everybody's going to be different. Some women are going to need some level of control in different things, whether it's money, whether it's the house, or just because their own programming, trauma, or whatever that they deal with. And so sometimes like one woman might have trauma with money, really hang on to money, and she basically just needs a fat bag of money to feel secure, and you just give her that, and then you control everything after that, and it'll be fine. And so there's yeah, a little bit. But that's just a safety and security type thing, which all women have at varying degrees, but all women have it. If someone was raised very poor, um, then that can be very minimal as long as she feels like she's going to have shelter and a roof and food, and it doesn't have to be, it feels guaranteed, then she's going to feel safe. Other women could need a multi-million dollar house. You just never know for sure. But as a man, you have to know what is it that she needs to stay in her feminine. Because if you put a woman into fear, fight or flight, the safety or security is removed in any way, shape, or form, that's when you wind up with, like, they will try to step into the masculine very quickly. And if you're not a man, they can stop her and say, look, stop. This is what we're going to do. And lead her through her fear. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying you have to have everything in place all the time. I I can go through something at this point now. I'm smart enough. I've been through enough shit that if shit hit the fan, let's put it that way, financially, everything was wrecked, everything else, I can still lead. I can still say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And as she's freaking out, I can just tell her, hey, stay calm. Look at the worst case. Look at where we're at. Look at the plan. Look at this. So that the safety and security doesn't necessarily come from the money or the bag or the whatever. It comes from my communication to her on how I am going to resolve this problem.
Hmm.
And if I am firm and I am certain in my own ability, then she will place her certainty in my certainty and we will move forward. And then she will receive that. And when she receives that fully, okay, this is where God says, respect your man, love your woman, right? Which means I slow down and I explain and I hear her and feel what she's feeling and make sure she's safe. That's loving her in that situation. Her respecting me is to go, okay, I hear your plan, I trust you, and she leans in. When that happens, when she leans into me and she receives me and my plan, that's when my masculinity steps in and says, to not say it lightly, motherfucker, now you have to go do what you just said,
Hmm.
right? Like now you are required to keep your word. Different frame. I get in a fight with her. She gets fear. I'm not certain. We go to battling back and forth. The money's uncertain. We just lost everything. Da 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 da. And if it's back and forth and she goes masculine and I go masculine, now she has every reason and every excuse of why I'm not going to cut it. And she will step in and start doing whatever it takes to figure it out. And the polarity will immediately die. And this is where most men wind up with their hand and a porno, right?
Hmm.
Like, this is the truth. Most men are not sexually fulfilled in an intimate way with their relationships because they're failing to fucking lead. So, and the other part, women, what you're doing is you're stepping up and taking masculine roles that you should never be taking. Stop. Like, whether you want to blame the man or not, you're still doing that. You have to also take responsibility for your part. And just like if I told you as a woman, and there might be a few that could, but if I told you, go rebuild this engine, you'd be like, why, how could I do that? Why would I do that or anything else? Exactly. So if you've been going 10, 15, 20 years of making sure certain things were done at the household, and I would say that's masculine, stop doing it. And you're like, well, he won't do it. Like, yes, he will. Well, no, he won't. I said, no, if you drop the ball on that and you say, I'm no longer doing this, it is your responsibility as the man of the house. I need you to take care of this. What do you think is going to happen? He's gonna mess it up. He's gonna figure it out. But it'd be just like you trying to rebuild an engine because I know how to do it, but you don't know how to do it. But now I expect you to do it. So you've been taking care of something in the house the whole time. Now you realize I shouldn't have ever done this because I really don't like doing it. I just did it because I had to. I felt like I had to do it because I was afraid or I had fear, and now I have to let go of it. And he doesn't even know how to do it, but I expect him to do it in the first shot. And if he doesn't do it in the first shot, now I'm going to tell him that, oh, see, I told you, like, he can't do it. And you're going to blame him. You wouldn't treat a little kid that way that was just learning to tie their shoes, would you? So you need to have that same level of understanding
And
that,
grace.
yeah, and grace that you put yourself there. Now you have to allow him to destroy everything in order to figure it out. But if you step into that masculine while he's trying to figure it out, you're no longer receiving him. Now you're battling him, and he'll say, "Look," and he'll use everything in his power to get you back into doing it because he's more comfortable with you doing it. He'd rather go back to his whatever phone or porn or whatever. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, screw it, let's not change anything. But the reality is inside this conversation of I want a better relationship, it can start with you, whether you're a man or a woman. It can start with you. You can be the one to inspire some form of action by the other person. I prefer it to be the men, but in most cases, the women are the ones actually listening because they're in their heads and they're thinking, I want more, I want this. And then you start telling stories and everything else. Well, why don't we just fix the problem first and see if you can save what you have? And if not, it is what it is. But most of the time, if when you learn this and then you actually learn how to communicate your emotions, nothing will motivate a man more in the wrong if he is in absence of masculine doing what he needs to. When he truly understands the emotional impact that it's having on your heart and you communicate it clearly, it is a kick in the nuts, like the hardest kick in the nuts, broken heart type shit you've ever felt, ever, because he'll all but go into depression. Like, oh shit. But then most of the time, if you are staying your feminine, you receive him and you tell him and it hurts him, and then you lean into him. He like it will fire something inside of him that he will get right up off his ass and start doing stuff, even if it's in silence, to resolve the problem. And he will continue as long as you stay in that frame of feminine. He will continue to do the things to fuck it up and figure it out over and over again, even in silence, but like without you even knowing, he will continue to work, whether he's figuring it out or not. And you have to pay attention to the best you can his effort, not necessarily what he did, like what changed, but there's such a balance between if you keep crossing that line into the masculine and killing his masculinity, then he's not going to do it. Same goes the other way. If men allow their women, right? Like this is different. It's the same, but you can have the same conversation. Let's say you're the guy trying to solve the problem here. Like the ladies, I'm saying, get out of your masculine. Stop doing the things you don't want to do. Let them fail. Let him figure it out while being feminine. So he is fueled so that he can get that extra push that he needs, that superpower to the old dog changing, doing new tricks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And from the male perspective, stop her from doing it. Like maybe you're the one trying to change the conversation and she's not wanting to hear it or anything else. And maybe she's so fed up with you that you can already see the writing on the wall that if this doesn't change, she's probably going to leave you for a better man. Like if she hasn't thought about it already. But I can tell you, if you're not having some sort of passionate intimacy on at least a weekly basis, there's probably a major problem. Outside of you just had a bunch of kids or something and you're tired and whatever. But even then, 3 months after having a kid, there should be some type of passionate intimacy going on. So you need to really look at that. But from the man's perspective, he needs to tell his wife, stop doing that. And she's like, no, it needs to be done. No, it doesn't. Stop. This is the plan. You're going to stop doing that. I'm going to figure out how to take it over. In this concept, it is me trying to make sure that I am fueled so that I can do more for you. And I can't do that if you keep doing this. Right. So here's a different game plan, a different look. And yeah, it's complicated. This is a very minor thing that I'm talking about. I'm really giving some very valuable information that I'm coming at it very fast too, but um, you're not going to catch it the first time through. This is something that you work on week after week after week after week after day, that you'll hear different things when you need to hear them. You'll see different things when you need to hear them. The people that are winning the most are the clients, when someone goes one on one. The people in the membership are winning, right? Like they are gaining week after week. We move them into a position where then we can go, okay, you see this now? Oh, it's step by step. We can't always come at each person and say, hey, this is exactly what you need to do. This, and this, because they can't take it. So we guide and we lead people to the next step consistently over and over again.
Yeah, because nobody is going to let go of years of programming and conditioning and stories overnight. And so it takes time and it's also like a conscious effort always to be who you are, right? And to work on this stuff. Like if you're in the relationship like Mac was talking about and you want to get the polarity back, it's not easy, especially as a woman, to let go of the control.
Scary.
But it's like a conscious effort. It's saying like, I'm, I'm gonna just allow him to do this and trust that even if he messes up, like he'll figure it out. I'm just gonna let it go. And it's a conscious effort date, like almost daily. It's even for me who's been I live most of my day these days like in my feminine energy. Like there's balance. So, like I can't always be in my feminine energy because like I do make decisions and I do things and I do get things done, but I make sure to um have that balance so I'm not snappy and exhausted and burnt out and all those things. But like it's a conscious effort, even for me, who's been doing this for a long time, to sit back and trust Mac. Like it's a choice. Like I choose to trust in his ability to make decisions. I choose to trust, like even when driving from Wyoming to here when you came, like Mac left at midnight
Mhm.
and it was snowing out,
It's
and
fine.
so, me wanting to control the situation is like, I don't, I don't feel like this is like safe. It's a good idea. But he said, no, I'm gonna like, I'm a grown ass man and I'm gonna do it. And so me just like letting back and be like, okay,
But
okay, like I
with
trust you.
that, I also left a lot of space for her to feel what she was feeling. I didn't say, you don't feel that. No, I was like, I understand.
Yeah, but like but it's like that energy is like it's like into everything. Like if I always express how I feel, and I don't feel like I don't have a voice or anything like that, but it's just like if Mac is like, no, this is what we're gonna do, I'm just like, okay. Not, and it's because I choose to trust him. Like I choose to let go. I choose to not judge the way he does things, even if they're not my way, if that makes sense. So like, um, I can't even, the only example I can think of right now is like with Cameron, like sometimes, especially, Mac and Cameron, um, they're great, but it's like they've had growth and getting to know each other and learn, kind of Cameron, I think, tried to, puff his chest a couple times. I don't know if that's the energy, but it doesn't matter
It is what.
what it was it was like Mac has a way of speaking to Cameron to get through to him. And it's not the way I would speak to Cameron because I'm not
No.
a dude. Like I am like, the mom that like wants to protect everybody, So it's just like Mac has his way of doing it. And Mac is basically like looks at me and says, hey, like he didn't really say this, but his energy was like, trust me, like trust me. Let me speak to him and get through to him so we can move forward and things, and we can move forward. And so it was like me, I had to, make a conscious decision to let go and just trust that they've got it. And it may not be my way, but it's the way that they're going to do it, and that's okay. But had I not just like kind of let go, and I could have stepped into my masculine energy and said no, no, and I could have battled with Mac and tried to make Mac speak to Cameron the way I would speak to Cameron, and if he wouldn't, then I would get angry at him and try to control Mac. And it's like that controlling energy is what kills the polarity. So a lot of
It's a
it,
judgmental.
and it's judging because I'm like I would be judging you because a lot of times we judge our men because they don't do things the way we would do them. So we're comparing them to perfect versions of ourselves, right? Which they can't live up to that. So sometimes it is just allowing, like, sitting back and trust, like letting them do things the way that they're going to do things, trusting that like it's going to work out. Or if it doesn't work out, it's okay because there was a lesson that needed to be learned. So a lot of like getting the polarity back, but also staying in polarity is just like, you know, the Mac does a good job at taking a lot off of me. So I don't have a lot to stress about. But it's also me learning to just like let go and know that like I don't have to be in control of everything at all times. And typically everything works out. Like I can let go. And I was even having this discussion with my mother earlier today about, I kind of told her, I said, I don't do much of anything for Mac unless he tells me to. And like I'll say like, and typically it's not always him. He doesn't bark orders. A lot of times it's me asking like, hey, like, would you like me to cook you dinner? And he'll say yes, or he'll say, no, I'm not hungry.
Mhm.
And so it's like, and if he says no, then I don't cook dinner. Like I'm like, would you, or like, would you like me to grab you a drink? Or like, I'll ask for, it's like almost asking for permission to do things for him. But I don't really up and do anything anymore without really like seeking his leadership first, which allows me to not have to, like, I do so much less.
You're not self-sacrificing
I'm
for no reason.
I'm not self-sacrificing or no for no reason thinking this is what you want or thinking this is what I need to do. I'm like, gee, would you like me to do that? Can I do this? Can I do, And I don't know if you noticed, I'm like constantly asking, like seeking your guidance. I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just like, if you're like, I remembered when you were changing my tires on the car, and I was like, rather than me grabbing lug nuts and helping, right? And getting in the way,
Yeah.
I was like, is there anything I can do to help? And he was like, just stand there and look pretty. And I was like, okay, I can do that. That's great. That's all I want to do anyways.
No.
But but it's like, rather than overstepping and mothering and trying to control him and
Well, there's a lot of times when you'll like, I think it's the impulse or need to feel like you need to contribute. And you're like, it's like, well, would you like me to drive? Like, no. But it's a question in your head that says, should I offer? And so then you just offer, the question's answered, and now you don't.
yeah, well, and I tell my ladies, I said, don't ask to do anything or don't offer to do anything you don't want to do. So like if you want to cook him dinner, like say, hey, like may I cook you dinner tonight? Because you want to do it, and then see what he says. And if he says no, I'll take you out, be like, okay, that sounds great, you know. But if he's like, yes, I would love that, then yeah, cook the dinner, right? But don't like offer to do things unless you want to do them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so um but even for me, like who knows like the importance of staying in my feminine, so what can keep the polarity alive, it definitely takes it's definitely a conscious effort. And but like anything, the more you practice, the better you get, and you just like become. And so it's like I don't like, what do they say? It's like that conscious and competence, that the scale or whatever, like there comes a point in time where it's like now I'm kind of just like I'm constantly like, may I do this, may I do that, may I do this, so much that like, and I feel like that's me being permissively in my feminine, but like so much so like your mother called me out on it when I'm doing it with her, like which is really funny, but
Which is fine though.
no, it's totally fine. And she's like, you don't have to ask me. Like, my house is your house. You can do whatever you want. Just do this, do that. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I really appreciate that. But like, I'm not just gonna, insert myself and start doing without like,
It's easier to just ask.
it's easier to just ask and seek. I seek guidance. I guess that's what I seek guidance from you. I seek guidance from the universe, right? So it's just about, it's truly about letting go of control and just trusting, learning to trust yourself, trust that everything's working for you, trust the intentions of your man, that he's doing the best he can. And the more he practices it being in his masculine and making those decisions and taking charge, the better he's going to get. Just like the more you practice at letting go, the better you'll get at it. And but it's like a journey, and it just takes time, and it's not all gonna happen like overnight, because this is years of wearing a mask and years of programming and conditioning, and also you're battling, kind of like the world, because you've got the feminists over here and you've got people over here, and it's like
All these women trying to prove themselves.
yeah, and it's like you get to be different. And being different is hard sometimes, because you've got the world telling you, no, do it this way. But if you're like, okay, if you start listening to the world and all the people, you're going to start getting results like all of them. And majority of the people that are out there are unhappy. They're not living their best lives, and most of the people giving you relationship advice are single and angry at
Yes,
men.
it's certainly not polarized in their relationship.
They're not, and they're completely in their masculine, and they've given up. And it's like, I mean, I go on Facebook and read some of the comments, and I'm just like, oh my God, like this is awful. If these women are listening to all these women, like they're going to get results
Mm.
just like them and be single and
Oh
miserable
yeah,
too.
that's
And it's like, it's just like, just a
and then
decision.
women defending women.
It's like, yeah. And it's like,
It's
it's
like,
just,
oh my
just
word.
deciding like what you want. Like, cause you can decide and then you can create it. So it's like, do I want to be in a amazing relationship full of passion and love, where I fully respect my man and where he devotes to me and cherishes me, and or do I want to just do what the rest of the world does and kind of like settle for a roommate, and like, we kind of just exist together, and it's not awful, but it's like, it works. I
Yeah,
don't want
well,
that.
yeah, there's a lot of people that'll stay where they're at just because they don't want to lose what they have, instead of letting go of it to find something greater. And so that's a big thing. And
Or instead of taking personal responsibility and starting to make the changes within you, so then the world will reflect. Because I will tell you that when I started making my changes, my ex-husband started showing up for me different.
hmm,
Not because he changed, but because I became more feminine. I stopped
hmm.
judging him so much and started like, you know,
Well, I've said it over and over, like even what most women would call a man that's an asshole will not hurt a feminine woman. Verbally, emotionally, anything. If she is showing up truly feminine, he might make a mistake, but as soon as he does, as long as she stays in her feminine, even with the pain she feels, he'll be like, I'm sorry. And because he doesn't want to. He might be sarcastic, he might do some different things, but men do not want to hurt a vulnerable woman. But when a woman becomes masculine and tries to compete with the man, he has no problem like going to war, going to battle. I'm not saying physically, but I'm saying with high levels of sarcasm, which messes with her emotionally. It doesn't affect a man to have sarcasm. He can do it though just fine. But often high levels of sarcasm with a woman, all it takes is the wrong day, and the same level of sarcasm that was just fine yesterday now today becomes detrimental. So it's you got to keep your women, and women, you got to stay out of that masculine. Like stop participating or playing that game that the world has taught everybody that this is what we should do or this is how it is and da da da. And there's these ideas of I've got friends even raising their daughters to be able to do stuff, whatever. And ultimately, psychologically, what I'm seeing their daughters do is work for approval. They're just daddy's little girl trying to get daddy's approval. And this means if you do what dad does, I get to spend time with dad. And so they're learning to be men in not the healthiest way. I think there is a good way that a balance to do it as long as you're educating your daughters while you're doing it is like, hey, you don't have to do any of this, but I'm enjoying this with you because you're receiving my leadership, my whatever. And you can teach them in good ways. You can teach them a lot of skills and a lot of different things. But typically, what happens is I'm going to teach my daughter to be an independent woman. Yeah, well, you're going to fuck her from finding a good man, like the kind of man you actually want her to be with, that's going to bring her kids prosperity, guidance, safety, security, all these things. You're building the block that's going to be created because she's going to live life in this world of I have to prove myself. And even one of our clients last week, went through the kind of a little bit of discussion, and all I did was create freedom with a different question that said, I can go back as far as being a child and start asking the questions that I needed to ask then and start getting answers now. 40, 50 years later. I don't know how long it is, maybe 30 years or whatever. And I'm not talking about one. Like this happens with almost all of my women clients. At some point, we'll back up far enough to ask the question of like, right here, you started making these decisions to go here. So you have all this programming throughout your life trying to prove yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to. Like, what was the question that you had back here, or what was the support that you needed back here? This says you now have permission to go learn or go be that little girl in a healthy way that you need to do. And you can do it on your own. You can do it with us. You can do it with help. You can do it with, whatever. But if you continue to stay in that masculine role, you will continue to be unfulfilled.
Like most of the world.
Yep. And I'm not saying a woman can't run a business and make money and da 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 and won't, and some have responsibilities, but if you want a passionate, on fire relationship that's not just all about physical lust, that is truly about connection and becoming one with each other in a way that God created us to be. And there's a lot of power, a lot of godly energy in both men and women that is beautifully matched. I mean, and when you think about it, the receiver and the giver, when you bring the two together, you have the full package, right? Like that's the thing, and that's why women are so good at caretaking with babies and children. And so um, I've never seen a truly passionate relationship where a man was raising the kids. I've seen some really good men taking care of kids and everything else, but what I see is the wife locked up. Like she's clearly has some baggage or whatever, and yeah, they will have some cool moments and everything else, but nothing compared to vice versa. Like yes, it works, and some of them are way better at it than 99% of a lot of other people, but I can see it in her eyes, and I can see him in the idea that he's just concluded that this is good. And so he just optimistically makes the best out of it. But she's over here locked up. I can see it. Like you can't bullshit me. I can see through your shit like this. Even if I don't call you out on it, I can see through it. So the ability to read energy, emotion, and everything else, like it just doesn't have the same effect. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, but what I am saying is masculine energy is not designed to raise kids. It is designed to produce and do cool things and everything else. With two people, maybe you can produce whatever, but kids also need their moms. However, they do not require their moms. They don't to grow up and be successful individuals. You can look at the studies and everything else. Moms are too nice. Typically, they're designed that way. They're supposed to be. Moms are too nice. Kids need their dads to be good human beings. There's a disciplinary factor that comes into the masculine. Can moms do it? Yes, I've seen them do it too. Are they fulfilled? No. They can be happy, they can do other things, but nothing like you will find when you get these two things on a better plane. And I'm not saying we're perfect because we're still learning and doing it and getting better at it and having fun with it. But when you bring these things together, just like with Cameron, right? If if I go at him, I'm like, hey, this is what's going to happen. And sometimes I do go at him, and she steps back, lets me do what I need to do because she believes that I'm going to do good. And and ultimately, that in my heart is good, and I wouldn't do anything that would mess like hurt him. And even if I did, I would correct it. Right. Like, let's just say, and there's times when, yeah, you're like, I'll do things and you're like, probably every trigger in your body goes off and you're like, and, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to punch through this wall that he's throwing up right now. And we're going to change a behavior right now. And very, very clear, but I'm very certain in what I'm doing, which gives her the certainty, like I said before. So there's a lot of this stuff that just, it really falls on them. You stay in your feminine, be masculine. If you're a man, be masculine. If you're feminine, be feminine. More and more, I think we're getting a little better at the, like, because you work, you do coaching, you work on stuff, do everything else, which is, could be considered masculine. But I think for a little while it got masculine where you're trying to figure everything out. And then I was like, stop, just stop. Like, it's not working. Like, I appreciate it and everything else, but like, if you're doing it, I'd rather you did it for fun. I don't need, I don't need you to do it. I just, like, I want my wife to be my wife. I don't want her stressed out. I want your energy to be as high as it can. So if you're having fun over here, blissfully happy, fucking everything up or winning completely, I don't care as long as you're happy. Like, that's the main part for me, because I want you in high energy. I don't mind going working hard and everything else, and like, that's my purpose. So
I
um
think,
yeah, and anything, probably should wrap this up.
mm, yeah, probably should wrap it up. There was lots of good stuff there.
Yeah.
I think that this my last thought is that I think it is possible to have a good relationship, um, and not be in polarity. But I think if you truly want passion and fulfillment, then this is the work that you want to do.
Yep. It's and like I said, imagine that for, well, I'm going to say this. How would I say this for the women? I think it could work either way. Imagine that science comes out with the perfect pill, shot, whatever, right? And this is like the super drug. So it gives you the ability, gives men the ability to produce like they've never produced before. It gives them like super smart conscious awareness to manage their money, to take care of things, to never miss anything. Everything's done or scheduled or whatever, and they're just like these superhuman machines that just make shit happen, and their bodies work better, everything. And for women, it just calms you down, gives you super focus, makes you feel safe all the time, like all this great, amazing stuff. And there was just this one shot pill or whatever. Well, that's what you get when you actually begin to experience true feminine and true masculine together. It is a superpower, because what happens is biologically there's a lot happening that, it regulates your hormones because one is fulfilling the other. And so the idea here is, if you can really get in those lanes and learn all the things of, like, how for a man how to lead, and a woman how to follow, and how to receive, and how to do this, and how to really get in that power that she has. And then the guy receives that, not so much receives it, but he gets it from her, that respect factor from it. And then he just starts giving, and he just like goes through the roof. So the drama goes down because it's no longer needed, and the certainty goes way up, which drives the safety and security. And then his production goes way up, and then she's fulfilled, he's fulfilled, like, let's go crush the world type energy. So it
It,
it, it
it
is like a
feels
superpower.
it feels like freedom,
Mm.
like bliss, like letting go, like you it's almost like a magnetic energy when you step into it, and that's really, really great. And we teach, what do we do? We teach a lot of this inside of our membership.
Yeah, there's always something, especially that comes up, where there will be one little, oh, that's the problem you're having. Look at it like this. Oh,
I would say pretty much on every single one of the monthly calls that I do for the women inside the membership, we are talking about stepping into feminine energy, healing, polarity, how to inspire devotion, how to let go. Like that's literally what every call is about.
Yeah, and with the men, it's similar, but it's on the man's side. Like, how are you leading? Or if there was this conflict, what are you missing? What does this mean? Higher levels of understanding, how to hold space, how to listen, hear, whatever. A lot of things where they'll tell me, well, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'll say, okay, what you think you're dealing with is not what you're dealing with. What you're dealing with is this over here, or something over here. You need to go investigate that,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, oh yeah, it's that, and then they solve all their problems like super quick. One thing I wanted to just touch on, I was going to talk about it more, but I just want to touch on it, and it's this idea of the puppet master. 99.9+% of men are letting their wives be their puppet master. The wives control the sex. The wives control often money or certain things. They control the house. They tell the husbands what to do, and the husbands are basically asking permission to be men, right? You don't have a good relationship if that's the case. If you are staying out of her way, like, oh, I just want her to be happy, so I'll just let her do this, or I don't want to cause a conflict, or I don't want to do this. Any of those things, or she wears the pants, or I just give her my checkbook, she manages the money, she does this, like all of those things, she is your puppet master, and she is now the man of the house, and you're the bitch. Even
Yeah.
if you are masculine, you're just a bachelor that's doing
If
it.
you're a man and you say to yourself, I just stay out of her way to make her
Mhm.
happy, you have huge problems.
Massive problems. Even if you are getting laid once in a while, and you think that's okay, she's just using you.
Staying out of her way does not make her happy. Even like your intention is nice, like we like
Mhm.
I see you, but it's like it does not make her happy, and
No.
it doesn't make you happy.
She might even say that she's happy or convince herself that she is, or you are, or this, that. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work that way. Biologically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, it does not freaking work that way.
If you're staying out of her way to make her happy, she feels alone and she's getting all of her needs met through probably the kids, um,
Or something.
or something else. Like for me, yeah, for you, it's probably work. You're getting all your needs met through work because you're staying out of her way to make her happy. But
Yeah. Well, I
neither of you are fulfilled, and now you guys are roommates. So,
previously,
and
like
then you're gonna get divorced.
I basically got to a point where I just switched my energy to making sure my daughter was taken care of, my stepdaughter, just giving to her, and she was good at receiving, and so I was able to really, I was getting some of that polarity in my ability to produce, right? Like just being able to produce and produce and produce, because like she needed it, she got it. She was a good kid. She did everything we asked. She was good, all those different things. And so I really noticed, I was like, wait a minute, why am I so like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but it was just because she was very good at receiving. She's
Mm-hmm.
very gracious, grateful. She doesn't have a lot of messed up programming, like, and so she was just a woman. She was just being a natural girl receiving. Obviously, a lot different than a wife husband relationship, but it still holds some of those things. And for the guys that have daughters that are also gracious and giving, like you just want to do everything for them. Like you'll conquer the world to help them keep going in the direction they want, as long as they are in that role. That they're being receiving, and they're being grateful, and they're respecting you, and those things you want to do more.
That's
So.
kind of the energy that us women like want to get back to is that like childlike state
Mhm.
of love, unconditional love, gratitude, freedom, fun, not really caring and just like being in the moment, just expressing how we feel and allowing other people to just like take care of us. Like that's where the kind of the goal to get back to
Yeah.
is.
So if your wife can do anything to get you to do something, she's your puppet master. Period. Like it doesn't matter if she does something to get you to take the trash out. Like it's something even that simple. Now, um, we don't really have a trash thing. It's not really a thing, but a lot of women do. Like you'll take it out, I'll take it out. It doesn't really matter. But if you're a woman and you don't like to take out the trash, like, or well, let me put it this way: if you're a guy and your wife doesn't like to take out the trash and she wants you to do it, the next time that she takes the trash out, you should tell her to knock that shit off. And she's like, well, it needed done. And she's like, no, it didn't. Like, I don't care. I take the trash out, you don't. End of story. You stop her from doing it. And what'll happen is she'll get frustrated. And then what you need her to do is to communicate her frustration to you in a like actually feminine way. Like, hey, I'm feeling like this because of this. And then it's like, fine, the pain will get great enough that you'll get good at taking the trash out. But the pain won't get great enough if she's just battling you like a man, telling you all the reasons why you should, why this is inappropriate, da 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 da, where she's beating you down. In which case, you, as a good leader, you should just stop her. Hey, sweetie, we're not going to do that. Like, I will take it out at this time. Now, you shouldn't be, as a man, you shouldn't say, yeah, I'll take care of it, and then not. Like, that's you not keeping your word. So you're being a liar. So now she has no safety or certainty. So,
And that's a whole nother
yeah.
podcast.
So don't let her be your puppet master because there will be no polarity. You will not be fully fulfilled. You have to be the one pulling your own strings to do what needs to be done so that she can respect you. And then you'll love her. And the more you do this and take the weight off of her and make her feminine, you will have the sexiest wife you've ever had in your life because she'll be able to show up feminine and you will be automatically drawn to her like you've never been drawn to a woman ever. So yeah, just some snippets there. This is by no means the here, listen to this podcast, they'll solve all your problems. No, this is like the scratch and sniff sticker of it. Like you just got to whiff. That's it.
All right.
You got to get in the membership. You got to, if you really got problems, if you're facing a divorce or going through a divorce, you should be reaching out to me like straight one-on-one. Like there's clearly obviously problems that have happened. And I can tell you exactly how to solve those problems, what to do, what to change, or how to do it to deal with it. And whether you're in it, going through it, past it, or about to, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and wherever you're at, get our membership, join the people, join the week after week success. You can also sign up for some of the other things like the book club, the newsletter, right? That you're enjoying, right?
I am enjoying it.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, so I will mention that for the book club, we just finished a book where she literally talked about how to inspire a man to take the trash out.
That's funny.
That is really funny.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, no, you didn't. And we're about to start a new book this coming week, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, which is all the hype right now.
Yeah, it's all on fire right now. Everybody's talking about it everywhere.
Super excited to start that. And then the newsletter is my new newsletter that I'm sending out every day, giving tips and strategies and inspiration for women on how to create the relationship of their dreams, the best relationship.
Which is awesome.
Which is awesome. Yes, it's so awesome. So it's a newsletter delivered right to your inbox every single day.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, well, that's it. Hope to see you guys. And if you like this, make sure you hit the little button so we know you're watching it, the thumbs up, and feel free to comment or reach out in whatever way seems fit to you. But I would say if something spoke to you, just make contact. Let us know you're there so that we can speak to you or ask us a question or anything. We enjoy this. We love doing it. It also helps us to be better students.
One of my very favorite clients found us on this podcast.
On this podcast. Yeah. Yeah. And she's crushing it.
She's doing amazing.
Yeah. Massive.
So, shout out.
Yeah.
She knows who she is. I think she knows who she is.
Yeah, she should. So, all right. We'll see you guys. Have a great week. Till next time.